Hi, and welcome to the Ball Buster Radio Show. I'm your host, Paul, and this is Scott.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing quite well. Got lots of good things going on. So, Scott, you just got back from the secular... what's it called?
It's the Imagine No Religion No. 4 conference in Kamloops.
In Kamloops. And how was that?
That was awesome.
Yeah?
That was just awesome.
What'd you do?
Oh, they...
Tell me about it, Scott.
They had a dozen speakers from around the world come and talk on a variety of topics that we'll get into, but secular, science, anti-religious, anti-faith-based thinking, a lot of inspiring speakers that I heard that we'll be talking about for a few weeks on this show.
Awesome. That's good. Big things. Lots of good things coming.
So before we go any further, I have to put a shout out to Gary Beamish for filling in for me last week. He was an excellent choice, I think.
Oh yeah, a great show. Did we end up downloading that? Because I tried downloading the MP3 file and sending it to you, but I couldn't figure out how to download it. It's confusing from the logger. So I'm sorry for those of you who missed. We'll have Gary Beamish come back on, and hopefully we'll be able to record that one.
Maybe I can do a Hangouts or something with him to get him to give me another 20 minutes on each topic. He covered the separate school board for a bit. Yeah,
for a little bit.
And covered marijuana laws.
Lots of that. We got lots of that.
And I agreed with, I did listen to it, of course, but I agree with pretty much everything he said. I did want to just point out when he said that there was no side effects of marijuana, I did just want to put in there to remind that for the undeveloped brain, marijuana is not a good thing. Yeah,
I don't know if I guess I didn't bring that up. We had a conversation beforehand, and I was in a psychology class in university, and we were talking about marijuana, and said that no valid study has ever shown that marijuana can be harmful, except for one study which showed that if you smoke pot heavily, like really heavily before the age of 14, there can be a fair amount of side effects, and I can't remember, schizophrenia came up. I don't know if that was actually...
There are personality disorders that can be, I don't know if they're actually caused by the marijuana usage at a young age, but it certainly will bring those symptoms to the surface, which... So, just like alcohol, it's not funny when the uncle gives a little bit of beer to the little kid. Oh, it's funny. No, it's not funny.
No, it's damaging and harmful.
Keep those kind of things away from young brains.
So moving on.
But I also want to remind or put in somewhere that makes my second point all the more important, that I have yet to see a drug dealer ask for identification.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you care about the kids, the insanity that I hear coming out of the Conservative Party is not only responsible, it's borderline criminally responsible, their position on it. So
yes. So moving on. We got a couple things to talk about today. We got 3 books here we're going to talk about, and we got some nons around the world. We got some,
do you have that ready to go? Because
get that up right now.
Yeah, into our. So what this is. And it's private because you won't find, you'll have to actually log in.
Oh crap.
But what I'll tell you about this interview I did the other night. What I did just to change things up, I had 2 people on at once who seemed to be pretty diverse, like the opposites.
How so?
The one fellow is maybe just a little bit younger than I am. He's from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got quite an interesting story. And the other guest is actually a young gal at university she lives in New Zealand. So it seemed like quite two different guests, but as we went on, we found out that there's a lot of similarities of where they are in their life. And what I ended up having to do, the young gal is not even, go into our...
Oh yeah, we just go into the videos, right? Okay.
So what this is Holly is actually not out as an atheist yet to her family.
Is there any reason why?
Yeah, I had to find that out because when I'm doing an interview, before we go any further, I have to make sure that she's going to be in a safe place. What if this video comes out?
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually found from her what she's risking by making this interview is a very unpleasant conversation with her folks that she's been trying to avoid. She's not risking, any harm. She's not going to lose her job or get kicked out of her family. As far as I know, it's going to be a difficult conversation that she's just kind of avoiding right now. So.
And a fun little fact or a fun little information. Holly actually is one of the administrators for one of a Facebook page that Scott and I are a part of, called Debate Faith. And if you guys are ever interested in getting engaging with theists or atheists, if you're a believer, Debate Faith is a great page. It's pretty well regulated. You won't be directly attacked or anything like that, but
yeah, so we'll let it fly. It's about 20 minutes now. I also have to say, because Holly can't do this interview from home, she was trying to do it from school. So originally she was actually hiding in a stairwell, which did attract some traffic eventually. So she went outside and went way off by herself outside. So there's about 5 seconds there where you'll hear the wind and some interruption in audio. I can't do anything about that. It's just a bit of wind and it goes away quick. But yeah, let's listen to this.
So this is Holly and
Scott. Yep.
A special edition of Nuns Around the World, and today we are joined by Scott, who is from Colorado. How you doing, Scott?
Good. How are you, Scott?
I'm very well. And also on the line is all the way from New Zealand. We have Holly with us.
Hi.
How you doing, Holly?
I'm good.
New
Tired.
Zealand? I thought she's an Australian. It's the same
Oh
thing.
my
right?
God!
Same
Don't even
thing,
go
right?
there. Do not call a New Zealander an Australian.
I know. I've heard that speech. I've been given that speech a couple times.
So we are discussing our atheism and how it kind of fits in or doesn't fit in with our communities, how old we were when we realized we were an atheist, and how that was reacted to by our community. So, Holly, how are you making out down there? Is there a heavy influence of Christianity still in New Zealand?
New Zealand is pretty secular. If you were to ask anyone on the street if they believed or not, you'd most likely get no. But there are still like circles of hard religion. Like more cities are more religious, but in general we're moving towards secularism.
Okay. Now, something I've noticed going across Canada is that the more fundamental type brand of Christianity seems to be in the smaller communities. Is there a lot of a difference that you've noticed when you have a lot of small villages where you're from?
I think by small you mean it's families. And in my church that I still go to because it's a family tradition, there's lots of big families that go. So I think you won't. It's more of like a family tradition thing now, as opposed to something that everyone does on a Sunday.
Right. Okay. Now, Scott, how old were you when you realized you're an atheist? Was this something that you had questioned early on, or were you kind of ingrained right into your belief system of your parents?
It wasn't with my parents. I grew up in a very non-religious, religion just wasn't an important part of our lives. I was baptized Lutheran very young, and I had my godparents that came out of that, and they were just good friends of the family that we hung out with. But it wasn't probably until I was in my 30s that I finally decided I'm done with it, and that was shortly after I had been baptized Mormon. I was dating a Mormon girl, and heard the whole story about how her ex-husband, who she was sealed to, was going to be joining us in the afterlife, and I wouldn't be there unless I was sealed to the family. So one thing led to another, and I gave God another try. I tried to believe. I was an ordained minister in the Mormon Church, and then after she and I finally fell apart or fell out, I received notice from the church that I was no longer welcome. I'd been officially excommunicated.
And how old were you at this time?
This would have been my mid-30s, mid to late 30s, mid-30s.
So this was part of your life, for a good chunk.
Yeah. But again, it was something that I had made the conscious choice to give. I didn't believe in God entirely at that point, but the Mormon Church is all about family and I mean, first and foremost, they're about family and taking care of each other, regardless of what crazy stuff they believe. Beyond that, they really are. They have some interesting thoughts on the whole process, and I made that choice because I wanted to be with this woman. I made that choice to play the part, and when she and I split up, and I was no longer interested in pursuing the church, I got a letter that I was excommunicated anyway. It's like I was cut loose because I was no longer part of her family. So that's when I think that's when I finally started really looking harder at what I believed and why I believed it, and that's kind of when I made the full push all the way over to atheism. Just when I started investigating all the different religions and how they got to where they believed and what have you, it was like, again, looking behind the veil and seeing this doesn't track. The logic doesn't follow in this whole rigmarole.
Yeah, like once you've looked behind the curtain, it's not putting that toothpaste back in the tube, kind of.
Exactly. It was impossible to believe again, and even then, I never had a really strong belief, so it wasn't that hard to make that final. Okay, it's all bunk. But I never had the feeling, and you were talking about this earlier. I never had the feeling of being angry at people for duping me. I never. And people want to, of course, always depict atheists as being angry at God. I'm not angry at God. If I'm angry at anybody, I'm angry at the people who invented the concept of gods, thousands of years ago, or however long ago.
Right. Now, to tie this in, it's kind of interesting that you and Holly are at this point in your life where Holly's at a point where she's wondering what to tell her parents about her atheism, and you're a generation removed ahead of Holly. You're at a point now where you're dealing with what to tell your kids about your atheism. Holly,
right.
You're not quite really out yet, are you, Holly?
I think she's
no. I think it's kind of like coming out as gay. You have to do it eventually, but at the time being, you're just kind of procrastinating.
So, do you have close friends then that would know that you're an atheist?
Yes. The most prolific is probably my best friend, and he's gay himself and very Christian. So that's a whole nother story for another time.
Oh.
He had to come out. He had to come out to his very anti-gay dad. So that was a whole revelation. And I'm surprised that he's still very religious considering that experience. But he knows, and he's rather accepting.
So he can really relate to what you're facing right now.
Yeah, just the whole having to tell parents something they don't really want to hear.
Yeah, we've all been there. So Scott, what are you telling your kids now? How old are they?
My oldest is 10. My youngest is 5. They both have had exposure to to the concept of God. They both have been to religious schools and daycare, so they've been told, ABC 1 2 3, God is real, and it all kind of just flows in for them. But they're both aware that I don't believe, and the oldest is just now getting to the point where he wants to know why I don't believe. And one of the things that I'm trying to instill in them is, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm going to show you how to think. I want you to come to that conclusion on your own. If you tell me that you believe in God, that's fine, but I want you to tell me why you believe. Not because you sat in a classroom and somebody told you that God is real. I want you to actually tell me why you believe God is real, and how you came to that conclusion. I'll never tell them flat out that God doesn't exist, because I don't think any atheist really should be making that declaration. I never have. It's one of the things I argue all the time. Atheists cannot make that claim that God is not real, because then it's the whole burden of proof thing. And on the converse side of that coin is, if the theist tells me that he believes God exists, good on you, great. As long as you can reason your way through that and explain to yourself and to others why you believe, that's fine and well. But when you tell me that God is real, absolutely, I wholeheartedly know that God is real, then the burden's on you. Tell me why, how, what.
Yeah. So, Holly, what is it that you're waiting for, that special moment when you're going to tell your dad? Now, is there something special about your dad that might be throwing a monkey wrench into that?
Just because my dad is my main parent. My parents are married, but my mum had a stroke, so she's kind of like not active as a parent, so it's kind of my dad that's the big one.
Right.
That's like another story. I'm just,
what does your dad do for a living?
Well, he works for the government for a living, but he does preach occasionally on Sundays to a Baptist congregation.
Oh.
Yeah. He's pretty Christian.
Now, what's the competition in New Zealand as far as religions go? Is there a lot of other religions that are making their presence known in New Zealand yet?
I think because we are very secular, there's a huge push for the whole, you believe what you want to believe and I'll believe what I want to believe. So there are a lot of religions, but it's very accepting and there's no real competition between them. And can I just say, I really liked what he said about teaching them how to think, not what to think, because that whole push was one of the biggest things that pushed me towards atheism. Just the whole, why do I think this, as opposed to what should I be thinking.
Right. I mean, I've read them, but you're muted, Scott. I've read the Bible 3 times from front to back in my entire lifetime. The first time I read it, because I was an avid reader as a young child, I read it as a believer because I was scared to death, and like the whole Pentecostal thing terrified me. The thing I went to as a friend, read the Bible cover to cover, and was just. I remember thinking, what a great story this is, because I mean, this is after I'd read, Lord of the Rings and all in that same time frame. I read the Bible, and I was just what a great story. But I was still in that fantasy mode. I question all these things. I thought about dragons and elves in the same way I thought a likelihood of as Noah's Ark and Sodom and Gomorrah, all the other scary stories in there. But then I read it again when I was having doubts and things didn't jive at all. And then of course, after I was reading the Book of Mormon and read the Bible again as a full out skeptic, that's when all the glaring contradictions and things that just couldn't make any sense to me. And of course, that's right about the time that the internet started being more accessible, more able to find the answers, and I've gotten pretty good at my Google foo to be able to find the propaganda both for and against topics, and so yeah.
Yeah, Scott, Holly's wondering what you're talking about when you refer to a time when the internet wasn't available.
I know.
But yeah, so it's leveled the playing field for guys like Scott and I, who now we no longer have to take anybody's word for anything. And what a luxury!
I'm envious of my sons, and when I see people on Facebook ask questions about, who want general atheists to explain the Big Bang to them. You're sitting on the largest repository of knowledge in the history of man, and you're asking us dummies to explain to you things. The answers are out there. Why are you on the internet asking common people? I don't understand all the parts about the Big Bang, but I can spend 15, 20 minutes doing research, and I can have a speaking knowledge about it, or at least a general idea. So that's what has always blown me away, that people in this day and age, especially these young kids who are asking these questions, and they're not bothering to look up the answers themselves. And I see that going away, though. I really do see that going. I see that going the way where people are stopping. They're stopping being confrontational or combative, and they're starting to Google these things. They're starting to click on those links that they're being told not to click on by their pastor, and they're learning these things that are again. I remember whether it was you, Scott, or somebody else who called them logic bombs, planting those little logic contradictions in their head. They turn over in their head while they're in the shower, while they're falling asleep, and going, "Wait a minute, how did you get 8 million species on a boat? Ain't gonna work."
Yeah. And then the House of Cards. Then see,
Sure.
For me, it wasn't so much losing the Bible stories that I missed when I became more of a skeptic, a critical thinker. Was I missed things like now I no longer believe in the Loch Ness Monster like I used to. The UFOs that were a great fantasy relief, to plug into that belief system and go along with it like I used to. But now Holly is actually talking to us from university. Are you finding any support groups in your area or anywhere else, Holly?
Not for non-believers, but there are Christian groups on campus. I accidentally signed up for one when I was trying to win an Xbox, and they wouldn't stop calling me for 2 weeks. So that was a bit of entrapment there. But
Did you win the
Xbox? No, I didn't.
There.
I just wanted to add about what he was saying before about the internet being so amazing, because when I was growing up, my parents encouraged me to read books that were like a Christian's view on evolution or a Christian's view on atheism, which of course it's very biased and always has an agenda. And so it was just the internet and being able to look at things firsthand, not through the guise of religion, that actually really helped me push through.
Right. Yeah. You're finding the same thing, Scott, that you can, just like you were talking about Google, a little bit of companionship or support, or just somebody that can give you an honest and intelligent conversation is just a click away now.
Right. I mean, I started using when I was I just moved back to Colorado after spending about 2 years in the Midwest working another job, and I had just started finding meetup groups that would get together at people's houses and would just tell stories, or would just a support group for atheism. Really is really what it came down to. And when I got back here, the only one I found was they call themselves atheists and free thinkers, and they want to sit around and they want to complain about religion. They want to attack religious groups and groups that are. What got me into this main group was that there was a local church that had shown a video in a gym class. A gym teacher had chosen to show this video of this local youth center type thing that had a foam pit and a climbing wall and, quote, we'll give you more junk food than your parents will allow you to have. It was a candy van for church. It really was. And the fact that it was being shown in a public school raised the hackles on this atheist group, and they went after the church and the school, and they did get the director of the schools to sit down with them and assure them that that's not okay. The teacher's been reprimanded. It's going in our training for next year to make sure that religious material like that is not allowed to be peddled in school. It's that simple.
So you join together for some solidarity and to strengthen your voice.
Exactly. But the problem with this group was that they really are. They're actually a lot of older people who aren't so much for being. They want to send out emails and write opinion letters, and they want to make noise that way. But they're not so much on going and confronting people or just doing good. Doing good work, showing that you're good without God type thing. So I found another group, and it turns out it's run by a friend of mine that I knew 20 years ago, called Humanists Doing Good, and they get together 2-3 times a month, and they have barbecues, they do roadside cleanups, they do all these things and getting the word out there that the old phrase "good without God." They're showing that they're not focusing on that. They're showing that they're a secular group that's able to do good for the community without the religious overtones to it. Right. And that appeals to me more. I mean, I'm all for let's attack or let's go after and let's expose the Christianity or the Christian agenda when it comes to having laws passed based on biblical law. I'm all for going after that, but I'd also much rather put the positive spin versus the negative. Why are you bashing my religion spin?
Right. Kind of put the humanism into it. So I think that's
I like the whole idea of the humanism. I like that aspect where it shows that the golden rule existed long before Jesus Christ.
Right.
It's just that Jesus Christ had better PR.
That's right. Well, I'm going to let you go, Scott. You enjoy your evening in Colorado.
Will do. Appreciate it.
And we'll talk to you again soon. And Holly, you are just been sitting patiently outside of your university. What it is that what are you studying?
I'm studying political science and philosophy with a minor in media.
Wow, you're going to be dangerous.
Hopefully.
Well, I'll let you get back to your studies, and I want to thank both of you for joining us and sharing your story, and we'll check in with you again.
All right, cool. See ya.
Okay, take care, guys.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Scott and Holly. Let's see. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Anything we want to comment on that before we move on to our next topics?
I just thought it was cool that even though they're very different, they're still dealing with similar things and things that it would be nice if you had support to go through those. And this isn't the first time I've heard it, but Holly refers to coming out as an atheist as similar to coming out homosexual or gay.
We just come out of the attic.
Yeah, or the cellar.
Yeah, wherever.
Yeah, but notice who the most supportive person in her life is for that is a gay friend who had to come out to his parents.
And yet he's religious himself.
Who is a Christian, so it's kind of funny that but you get support wherever you can, and I'm sure he understands better than most what she's going through. So hopefully we'll check in and we'll maybe we'll get her to film the moment when she tells.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
That would be definitely something. It'd be inspiring for those who are still nervous about coming out and be like, here's a lady who did it, and you can look up to her, kind of thing. Yeah. So we got 3 books here that Scott has collected over the times. We got Sex and God from Darrel Ray, and we got Pain in the How to Be a Really Good Pain in the Arse by Christopher
DiCarlo.
DiCarlo, and D.E. Converted by Seth Andrews.
Yeah, you say that together, it's D.
Oh, Deconverted. Oh, I
That's okay.
read good.
No, the reason why I grabbed these are three of the books that I managed to get on the weekend. I'll autograph to the Ball Buster. Reason I chose these three to talk about is these three guys are super interesting kind of mentors or heroes to me, kind of thing.
And why is that?
And they're for all of them are for three different reasons. So one of the books is called Sex and God: How Religion Distorts Sexuality by Dr. Darrel Ray. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with Dr. Ray on the weekend.
That's really cool.
And actually, he gave a really good talk. And afterwards, he was selling his books, and his some shirts were on sale. So this is actually, I don't know if
For those
you'll be able to
viewers-
pick that up on camera.
It's secular sexual.
It says that I'm a secular sexual, and he actually ran out of shirts. I'm pretty sure this is the one that he was wearing for his talk that I bought. So
You're pretty sure? Before you said you got it right off his back.
Well, it's
now
got-
now you have doubt. Now you're saying you have doubt. You kind of doubt
it
it.
came with stains that I didn't put on it. So I'm assuming that I'm pretty sure it's the one that he was wearing. So
That's
that's
So he-
the kind
so-
of guy Dr. Ray is. He won't give you the shirt off his back, but he'll sell it to you for a pretty good price.
And how much did it cost?
I think it was $20.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah. So what it means, taking religion out of the sex,
Yeah.
your sex life.
Yeah,
And
because
the research that he's done and it's fascinating stuff. But basically, being a secular sexual, people obviously wearing the shirt. What does that mean? Well, it means that I get to sleep with whoever I want in any position I want.
I'm just trying to. I'm actually imagining that right now in my head.
Only having to have their permission as opposed to anybody else's, which what that means at the end of the day is I end up having the sex life that believers can only
Imagine.
constantly
Fantasize
fantasize
about.
about.
I'm just trying to imagine that, like, say a certain position in the bedroom is blasphemous. Just like, okay, let's do this. No, we can't do that. Jesus is watching.
Isn't that where missionary position came from? Isn't that why it's called that?
It removes all the guilt out of sex that religion injects into your sex life, which ends up, as the research shows, religious people are. It's not that they have bad sex lives or bad sex. They are they're constantly forced to lie about it. Religion again makes you a liar. So, but yeah, what a fun topic to be a researcher. I told him I'd volunteer as either a researcher or as a guinea pig for his next book.
Yeah. Hi. Are you religious? Well, yes, I am. How's your sex life?
Well,
I must go over well. Just
a lot of people don't realize, and as Daniel's educated me over the last few years, growing up, you were either boy or girl, homosexual or heterosexual. Mm-hmm. There was really no.
It's 4 options. You can be this, and that's it.
But being a spectrum, which is great because I wasn't aware there were so many options to me. But opening up that spectrum and talking about where you are on the spectrum, because that comes into, we argue with people about, well, being gay is a choice, and well, if you think about my own life, and as far as I know, I'm still a card-carrying, confirmed, dedicated vegetarian. I don't remember deciding when, I was attracted to women. That was never a decision for me. So,
some sort of puberty blur era where you're just like, yeah.
So the beautiful thing about Darrel Ray is it takes the blinders off us, and as well as the guilt and the shame about sex, that you can actually have to try to get to a normal, intelligent conversation about the topic without the guilt and the taboo and all that nonsense. So again, it's Sex and God
in stores near you, probably.
I'll put up a link on our in the video description.
So next on our list we got how to be a really good pain in the ass.
Yeah, this is a book by Christopher Carlo called How to Be a Really Good Pain in the Ass, a critical thinker's guide to asking the right questions. And just as a public service announcement, I will let people know, I haven't actually read this yet, so if you think I'm a pain in the ass now, we're going to pour some gasoline on that bonfire and see what happens.
And I'm flipping through it, I noticed there's some activities out there, so for those who are like, really turned off by reading, there's activities, and
It's a big book, but the reason why Christopher's work is so important isn't that he was able to write a book that you may or may not read. What he's actually working on right now, and has something on the table, a pilot project for a school board in Southern Ontario. He's developed the curriculum for a high school course that hopefully will be a mandatory course. You can't get through high school, you can't get out of high school until you've passed a critical thinking class.
that would be such a good, useful course. Because you got a lot of people coming out of high school and they still don't really know what they want to do because they don't have the right questions. They're really unsure about themselves because they just don't know how they're supposed to be thinking about certain things. So like,
the problem is they won't know. They won't know how much they don't know. They'll think that they have the right answers, and you see it all the time. But it's not just about the big things. It's about the little things that you go through every day.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's is this a better product than this? Is that advertisement truthful? Is my neighbor being honest about, was that your dog that did that?
Yeah.
Or was it you? Just really working on, and hopefully everybody is doing this even subconsciously, working on calibrating and fine-tuning your own bullshit detector in your head.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's what critical thinking comes down to. Nobody wants to get taken for a ride, whether it's, screwed on a real estate deal, or you bought that magic bracelet that was worth $10 and you paid $80 under false pretenses. If the government's pretty good that at least now on when you see advertisings for psychics, you'll actually see, and I think it's different from province to province. I should find out what the real law in Canada is, but you will see, and it wasn't voluntary, somewhere a disclaimer that says for entertainment purposes only. Yeah. Which is only fair because they can't do what they really say they can.
Yeah, you can't
say that it's true either.
Yeah.
You can't unless you can demonstrate what you're really doing in a controlled setting. There's no reason to think that you're being truthful about your claim, and that's where we are. I don't know how many years it's been now, but if you think you can do something, demonstrate a psychic ability or a paranormal power, you're welcome to take James Randi's $1 Million Challenge and walk away with $1 million. Now, in defense of psychics, before I leave that, not all psychics are out and out total crooks.
Yes.
A big chunk of them are, and certainly the famous ones, as far as I'm concerned, are patently dishonest and easily debunked. Yeah. There are a number of people out there who are psychics who really do think they have psychic ability because they got into that field, the culture, the business,
the trend.
So another psychic brought them in. I really feel that you have this natural power yourself, and why don't we develop that? You can sell them courses on how to become a psychic. There's free ones on the internet. Michael Shermer has one of how to be a psychic in 10 easy steps. You can do it. I can do it. It's called cold reading, and it's not hard.
Yeah. For those of you who actually aren't aware, that there actually are critical thinking classes or courses you can take in university, and I highly recommend taking them. They're open to first-year students, and for the most part, a lot of it was pretty standard. I already knew that. But a couple of them, they teach you how to deal with fallacies. They teach you how to answer questions without making claims you can't support, and simple things like that, and just really basic logic that I'd say about 6 out of 10 kids that come out of high school have no idea how to do. No. Talking to our cameraman here, Dan, you're fresh out of high school, right?
Yep.
Yeah. How many kids come out of high school do you know that are actually really sure about what they know?
Oh, I'd say about 2 in 10.
Exactly.
Or more importantly, pretty sure about what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know if they're that modest.
Think you know
usually.
something. How do you know that? That's all the critical thinking
Yeah.
skills comes down to. I'd like to have good reasons for the things that I believe, and I would honing that accuracy of my model around the world, of the world around me. I would much rather now have that ugly truth in my face, and I can deal with that, than hang on to a beautiful lie the rest
Exactly.
of my life. So, again, getting back to Christopher DiCarlo, yeah, and you can see that there's online courses you can take on critical thinking skills.
Oh, yeah.
Some are free, many are you pay for. So it's nice to see that there's got to be a demand for this,
Yeah.
right? So, but for a guy who's out of the system, I'm not in university,
Yeah.
and I may not be aware of critical thinking skills. Be so nice to think that the generation coming behind me is learning these skills, because you guys are the ones that are going to be taking care of me when I'm old.
Well, so,
I don't want
so
you bringing-
hopefully, right?
You know, if all things go according to plan, I'm going to be old, and somebody's going to have to take care of me.
Yeah.
I hope to live to be that old, and it'd be really nice to think that the nurse or the doctor taking care of me isn't going to do anything other than
Just sit,
an
pray.
evidence-based approach to my care.
Instead of just praying, I hope I'm gonna pray for you.
But I mean that's an extreme example. But there's, instead of a alternative
Yeah.
approach to my care, I want it to be evidence-based. Thanks.
So hopefully within maybe even the next few years, Christopher DiCarlo will get that law passed, and at the very least have the course available, because I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean it's not a law, but just
the
to have this
curriculum thing,
introduced to as a permanent part of the curriculum. Now the problem is we have an election coming up in Ontario.
hmm
So all the hard work that he's done for us could get thrown back to the starting line if there's a change in government.
pity.
So, not that I want the Liberals to win in Ontario, because we just have to get rid of that extra school board. But we can't afford $1 billion+ dollars a year to be throwing down the tubes. So I don't want them to get in, but at the same time, I hope that nothing major happens
hmm
to all the work that he's done right now. But it is encouraging that you can reach people.
Yes,
And Chris
definitely.
was saying that once he got in and got speaking to the right people in the at the Board of Education, that things actually did move. He was surprised that things did move at a pretty good pace once that he got into the right, in front of the right faces. So
Yeah.
very encouraging, and that ties in with a lot of things that a reoccurring theme since we've been playing around with this show, this little project, and when I went out west to the big conference, I talked to an awful lot of people, generation below me, and it is encouraging to see how the generation coming behind me, their bullshit detectors are a little bit more finely
More
tuned.
cute. Yeah.
Than my generation. Certainly the generation before me was kind of in the habit of not questioning.
And I think something that I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't really noticed this myself. Be it our bullshit detectors, we're pretty good at catching other people. But you need to be able to self-analyze and catch your own bullshit too, because sometimes you just catch yourself. Like I do this sometimes myself. I'll just say something like, "Makes no sense what I just said there."
Yeah, it sounded really good in my head,
Yeah.
and I said it, and that's like today. I was having a conversation with a fellow who was having clearly religious-related issues, understanding some basic science.
hmm
And he said, "Well, Linnaeus, the guy that came up with the taxonomy, the way we classify animals, he didn't believe in evolution." Well, yeah, I mean, Linnaeus lived in the 1700s.
Darwin wasn't even born.
Darwin presented his work in the 1800s.
hmm
Linnaeus didn't believe in the internet either, stupid. He wasn't alive. Like the dumbest arguments that, really at the end of the day, a lot of this just comes down to, it's really just a big dangerous distraction.
Yeah.
Trying to confront somebody about the dangers of vaccination and them trying to make a link between vaccines and autism. A lot of this would go away if some people would just take a basic critical.
And it's kind of upsetting to think that some people who think like this are people in power and who have a say in certain things. And you're like,
well, they're people who are worried about ratings.
mm-hmm.
I don't think Oprah's done much for the average housewife by allowing misinformation to be passed in such an irresponsible manner. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to think that people would have enough critical thinking skills to know that I have a researcher who can show me how he performed and followed strictly the scientific method and show me his research than some housewife with nothing better to do, or a once hot celebrity irresponsibly shooting her mouth off in a topic that she has no business being in.
Yeah, it's a fallacy right there, appeal to authority.
Yeah.
Well, Oprah said, why are you pouring salt in your wound? Oh, Oprah said it's the best medicine.
No, Oprah, and see that she's once removed. Oprah had us an expert.
Ooh.
In quotations.
It wasn't Oprah, it was an expert she had. Somebody with a couple of letters behind their name, and impressed Oprah enough. But she's been duped enough on TV.
So our next book on the list is Deconverted, A Journey from Religion to Reason by Seth Andrews. You show that to the camera.
Yeah, I actually read this on the airplane on the way home. It's pretty much done by the time I hit Toronto, so...
It's a real page turner then.
Well, it was for me, and what was really cool for me, I mean, Seth he was one of the most popular speakers you'll find at any convention. He's a very genuine, interesting guy, but he's talking about growing up. He grew up in Oklahoma. 6 months after he was born, I was born up here in Canada.
You guys have so much in common.
And so far so good. But the interesting part for me is, even though he was in a completely different setting, our environment around us, the way we kept intersecting and crossing each other's paths, my path growing up as a child, all through my childhood and his, I just found it fascinating and fun, the reminiscing of the things that we grew up with. And like, absolutely, I remember that. Everything from him talking about Encyclopedia Brown, which was...
I have no idea what that is.
Well, fortunately, my mom introduced me to that series of books for kids, which Encyclopedia Brown is a kid who is special because, unlike the other kids around him and most of the adults around him, he actually engages in critical thinking skills. And he's great. The kids hire him to show, he'll figure out where this adult or somebody trying to rip somebody off is lying. So it was really good. I mean, that combined with Scooby-Doo, that was my critical thinking class when I was growing up. But Seth goes through and talks about what it was like. He was on the other side where everything I was doing in the secular world growing up was mirrored by him in his very religious, his family was quite religious. So again, the effects and how our reactions are to the secular world as we're growing up was really interesting to read. So Seth had become really the darling of the Christian groups in the U.S. because Seth is gifted with a golden voice and, you know, amazing good looks.
Voice of an angel.
And yeah, the looks of a gigolo. He's a pretty well put together fellow. So you can see how you know, religious group or a religious radio station would be very happy to have this guy as a spokesperson. He was doing Youth for Christ talks when he was, I think, 13. They were using him at a very young age to as a pitch man for Jesus.
So what made him deconvert?
He, again, typically, it wasn't that one thing that it was a whole series of the building doubt. That little nagging itch in the back of your skull that just is not going away. this isn't
Something
kosher
about this
here.
isn't right.
It's not sitting well. And as time went on, he found himself not speaking out against religion at all, but just withdrawing himself from that and not engaging in it, which is really difficult when you're the morning DJ, the morning voice of a Christian radio station.
Yeah.
His discussions about a phenomenon that I got to witness is the rise of Christian rock in the 80s.
What,
which-
Creed?
No, not even close.
I'm kidding.
You would have to go on the internet and it was all the heavy metal, everything that we were doing in the secular world, while the Christian community was trying to match and put out a Christian
Version of each thing.
yeah, a low class budget version of the religious part of that.
Do you
a
find
counterpart.
it off topic or similar? Do you find it absolutely hilarious that the religious culture is still trying to put out raps to promote their hip and cool ways? It's kind of
Well, that's just an extension of how, and in his talk on the weekend, he was showing how religious groups try to jump on bandwagons of whatever's popular in the secular community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is amusing how they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get the now. That's not a good example, or certainly not a good one with me, because I think it's hilarious people listen to
Rap in the
just
first-
regular rap.
Yeah.
Something I can probably. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more until I put out my own rap song to show you that 45 minutes in a computer program, I can do that too. But the question is, do I want to?
God, this is so boring.
But back then, we didn't have rap in the 80s, as you would think of it.
You had the Beastie Boys and Flava Flav.
Yeah, which were just the beginning. But back then, we had all the heavy metal bands I would listen to. There would be Christian rock.
Give us an example.
Like Striper. Just do a Google on Striper. Striper is a Christian thrash metal, heavy metal
Like
band.
So we have Anthrax. They have
Yeah, Striper.
Striper.
But yeah, it's.
Striper, no striping.
But yeah, it is really interesting. So the reason why I bought that book again, 3 different heroes. Seth is just kind of one of those guys where I've gotten to know very well. And it's funny because when I finally did meet him on the weekend, you feel like such a tool. When you're my age and you meet, I don't live with a lot of idols in my life. Like I just don't. Okay, that's a nice trait, and he has a nice trait, but I don't really idolize individuals. So when you do actually find somebody that you've really connected with,
You get absolutely starstruck.
well, I do, and so I end up saying something stupid like, "Hi, Seth. You don't know me, but we're really good friends," or
Your work just speaks to me, and I feel like
yeah.
you were made for me. You complete
Well,
me.
I'd never sound that retarded, but I think people get the idea that you're certainly not yourself, and for somebody who's rarely at a loss of words, I'm just hi, I know you. And
I wish I could have been there. Just take a couple of photos of that.
Well, it was amazing because, again, like I was telling you the story, some people got the wrong impression, and I kind of helped that along, that I was an organizer and that I was one of the main people running this conference because I was there early, and just because I'll go up and talk to anybody, go up and I'll see the speakers getting out of their car with all their luggage, so I'm right there. They're not sure if I'm a bellhop or an organizer. But I got this badge on, so they thought I was an organizer. So all weekend, Darrel Ray and all these really impressive people that I'm amazed that I got as close as I did to them would actually call me over and start talking to me and introduce me to somebody else. It was a colleague, and it was just mind blowing how approachable these people are. When I went to the conference, I was really hoping to just get an autograph of kind of the main guy was Dr. Lawrence Krauss was there, and not just getting his autograph, but going out and getting him drunk.
That's so cool. So cool.
So just being.
It's like smoking weed with Bob Marley. Bob Marley is just like.
Or with Einstein, to me, that'd be like getting high with Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
But
Carl
and that's the
Sagan.
one thing that I learned. The people in this movement are so approachable and so helpful, and when you're genuine and sincere, they always respond in kind.
Yeah.
I can do a whole show on a fellow I met named Jerry DeWitt, who I'd seen some of his videos. He was a pastor that came out as an atheist while he was still in the pulpit, and he's part of that.
Bet that went over well.
Part of what's called the Clergy Project that he and other guys like Dan Barker who are involved with, who are helping pastors. Am I keeping you awake?
No, sorry, I'm just...
Helping pastors to actually come and adjust to life outside of clergy. Now, this was your entire, I mean, it's easy for me, tell people I'm not a believer, it doesn't affect my livelihood. My entire identity to that point was I was the pastor of a flock, and now I've lost that. What do I do? This guy went through all that, lost his family, lost all his friends, living in the South as a Southern pastor. Now he's told his whole congregation he's no longer a believer and he's stepping down. He was getting death threats. I mean,
That's,
in modern country, in this modern age, we're getting death threats. Somebody's upset because, well, you baptized my child and now you're telling me you're an atheist?
Like, what does that mean?
Like
what is this going to happen? If something going to happen to me, you should be, put to the stake.
But the significance is that Jerry, even though he became the pariah of that community, the outcast, still is probably the sweetest man you'll ever meet in your life. To the point where I'll warn people, if you hug Jerry, and it's hard not to, if you hug him for more than 10 seconds, you get diabetes. He's that sweet of a guy. It's just that you're walking down the hallway and you can feel his smile on the back of your head. I was like, I know Jerry's back there. He doesn't matter if you're not an outgoing, an extrovert. You still, it's like, Jerry, do you mind if I just give you a hug before I leave? So I could do a whole show on him, but and maybe I will. Maybe I'll see if
You should probably get him on here.
He would be the kind of guy who would come on the show and talk to nobody like me. Yeah. So we've just got a few minutes left.
Yeah, we can probably start this. We got our last song here. Our last song. Got another song here called "Rival Sons."
Yeah.
Until the sun comes, and
well, I did have another song lined up to finish the show.
we'll save it for another time.
But it was this weekend with the beautiful weather. The spring is finally appears to
I think spring's come and gone already. It's summer out there, man. It's getting pretty
it's
hot.
finally safe to take those winter tires off. I think.
Yeah.
And after the weekend I had, just a fantastic weekend that reminded me that there's it just wasn't just the speakers that was fantastic. It was between the speakers and talking to them and talking to my other
other people
fellow
there.
attendees there, and just to remind myself that it's important to believe in life before death.
Yeah, that's important.
So just for fun, let's just put a party song on, and don't forget to have a great time this week, guys.
All right, yes. So we'll see you guys next week, and have a wonderful week.
I know you think you've heard it all before, but you can tell the story tonight. Get it left, get it right, get it up and down. You look through it, all the staring at your eyes. Hey, hey, and we can dance until the sun comes out. And we can dance until the sun comes out. Until the sun comes.